Hi, friends. All right, we are reading the Boxcar Children, the Shackleton Sabotage, Chapter 8, Shackleton's Semaphore. The Aldens took turns looking at the photos. Each one was of a man in parka standing on what looked like an airplane runway, except it was covered in snow. The man was holding two flags, one in each hand. The only thing different about the photographs was that in each one, the man was holding the flags in different positions. Each photo also had a number written on the bottom corner in permanent marker. The numbers went from 1 to 14. Benny put all the photos in order. It must be some kind of message, he said. But what? The flags must be some kind of signal, Jessie suggested. Do you remember when we were at the airport? I saw people using light batons to direct the planes. This man's holding the flags looks like that. Maybe it's a version of air traffic control, Henry said. Say, Brian, do you know anything about this? Benny, who was sitting closest to Brian, showed him one of the photographs. Do you know what this might mean? He asked. Brian flipped through the photographs and nodded. I do. I mean, I think I know what these are, but I don't know what they say. You see, I think these are letters in semaphore. Letters? Violet asked. Semaphore? Jessie added. What's semaphore? Is it a language? Sort of, said Brian. Semaphore is a way of spelling out letters using the positions of flags. It's a way of sending a message over a long distance without using a telephone or radio. It's used by the Navy, for example, to send short messages from ship to ship. You can see from the photographs that these flags are very bright. It would be easy to see them from far away. So the different flag positions represent different letters, Henry asked. Great. Then all we need to do is find someone who knows how to decode semaphore and ask them to help us write down which letter each photograph represents. Do you think anyone on the plane might know how to decode it? Jessie asked. Brian tapped his chin with a finger. You know, there just might be. There are a few passengers here who work for the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy. I'll bet one of them would be able to help you. Wait here and I'll go ask. Brian unbuckled his safety belt and walked through the plane, holding on onto the hand straps and chairs to keep his balance. He asked if any of the passengers knew anything about semaphore. At first, it seemed like no one would be able to help them. I wonder if there's Wi-Fi at McMurdo Station, Jessie said. We could probably look up the letters of the semaphore code online. But for right now, I hope there is someone on the plane who might be able to help us. Brian got to the last row of passengers. Just when it seemed like they were out of luck, Brian spoke to an older man who looked up and nodded. Brian explained, and the man waved at the Aldens. A minute later, he came over to take an empty seat next to them. I heard you can use some help decoding semaphore, he said. My name is Stephen Luau. I was a doctor in the Navy where we learned semaphore. It's been a while, but I could probably help you. That would be great, Benny said. He handed over the photographs. Jessie found her notebook and pencil and offered those too. While Dr. Luau looked at the photographs and wrote in Jessie's notebook, Aunt Jane asked, what brings you to Antarctica? I'm retired, but some of my nephews work for an Antarctic program. When I was in the Navy, I traveled all over the world. I've been to all the continents except Antarctica, so I decided to make a trip. Antarctica is our sixth continent, Violet said. We've been traveling a lot lately. Dr. Luau was almost done going through the photographs. Good for you, he said. Traveling is wonderful for the mind and spirit. You learn so many things when you see how big the world really is, and in some ways, how small. Here you go. I couldn't remember one of the positions, but I think you might still be able to figure out what it says. Dr. Luau handed the photos back to Benny and the notebook back to Jessie. Thank you, said Benny. No, thank you, said Dr. Luau. It was fun to exercise my memory. It's not every day you get to read a message in semaphore. Dr. Luau waved goodbye and went back to his seat. The Aldens looked at the letters from the semaphore message. One letter, the letter Dr. Luau couldn't remember, was missing. Shackleton's H blank T. Shackletons, Henry said. What are Shackletons? It's a name, Jessie exclaimed. Ernest Shackleton. I read about him when I was reading about explorers. He spent many years exploring Antarctica and trying to research the South Pole. So, what is the second word? Benny asked. Maybe hat? Henry nodded. It could be Shackleton's hat. I'm sure he wore hats on his adventures because it was so cold. Shackleton's hit doesn't make any sense, Violet said. And it couldn't be Shackleton's hot because it's not hot in Antarctica at all. Shackleton's hat could be it, Jesse agreed, but I don't understand yet how it could help us return the biscuit tin from the Reedimus box. Maybe when we get to the McMurdo station, the clue will make more sense. Wait a second, Aunt Jane said. If it was Shackleton's hat, we would know. There's an A in Shackleton. So if it were hat, the same flag position would have been used there too. So it's not hat? Benny asked. He was a little confused, so Henry took out the photographs of the flags again. They lined the photographs up in order, and Henry pointed to the third photograph, which stood for the A in Shackleton. Oh, I see what Aunt Jane is saying, Henry said. Look here. The flag position in this photo means A, but it's different from the one that Dr. Luau can't remember. That means the letter in between H and T is not an A. Oh, Benny said. Now he understood. He looked at the photo some more. Then it's not het or hot either. The E and the O are both in Shackleton, too. But those flags don't match the one between the H and the T either. And hit still doesn't make any sense, Violet said. What about hut? Jessie asked. Shackleton's hut. Maybe Ernest Shackleton had a hut where he lived when he wasn't exploring. Benny nodded. That made sense. Maybe that's where he kept all of his biscuits, he said. They spent the rest of the plane ride practicing the semaphore from the photographs. They didn't have flags, so they used pieces of paper from Jessie's notebook. There weren't many letters to work with, but she was still able to spell some words: cat, note, and sack. Benny had a fun time matching the flag positions to the letters using the photographs, and Jessie helping him sound out the words. When it was Henry's turn to spell a word, he wrote out SOS. What's SOS? Benny asked. He tried to sound it out. Sauce? SOS doesn't actually stand for anything, Henry explained. It's a signal that means there is an emergency. If you were stranded on a desert island, you might try to write SOS in the sand in case a plane flew by. Then they would know you needed help. SOS is a good thing to be able to spell in semaphore, Violet said. You could use it to signal for help on a ship or to even if you didn't have a cell phone or a radio. So I want to practice SOS using the flags, Benny said, but I hope we never have to use it from a deserted island. Don't worry, Benny. I don't think we will, Aunt Jane assured him. This plane is very safe. The Reedimus Society has taken very good care of us on our journey. Now, if only we could find out which pilot is spying on us, Henry said. It was a relief to talk about this now, when they didn't have to worry about being overheard. After we return the biscuit tin, we should figure out which of the pilots is working for the Argents. I was just thinking about that, said Jessie. When we were trying to figure out the mystery letter in the semaphore riddle, at first, when we thought it might say hat, I was thinking about all the ways we might try to find Ernest Shackleton's hat. But when we realized it said hut, I had to change my plans to imagine a hut instead. Depending on how we thought about the message, we could have gone on two very different adventures. I wonder if we can use that idea to figure out which of the pilots is working for the Argents. The Argents led us on a fake adventure already, Violet said, when they gave us the fake message about Thailand and tried to trick us into giving the artifact to the wrong person. But if we give both pilots a message and send them both on a fake adventure, then we won't have anyone to fly the jet, Benny said. Then we would have to signal SOS for the Silvertons to send us new pilots. Jessie sighed. It was a difficult problem to solve. There had to be a way to single out the Argent spy. If they thought about it, they would be able to figure it out. People will do different things depending on what information they get, she said. Just like with our message about Shackleton's hut when we thought it might say Shackleton's hat. What if we gave them two different messages and watch what they do? Violet suggested. But I don't know what kind of message would show us which one of them is a spy for the Argents. It's not like we can say, if you are the spy, then tell us right away. Benny giggled at that idea. That would be too easy, he said. Anyway, if they knew the message came from us, then they would know we were trying to figure them out. We're going to have to be clever to outsmart them. Yes, we will, Henry said. Let's all keep thinking about it. But don't forget, we need to return the biscuit tin first. After we do that, we can work more on figuring out which pilot is working for the Argents. All right, guys, that's the end of chapter 8. Next time, we'll be reading chapter 9, Returning the Sixth Artifact. All right, have a great day. Bye.